Hey guys, we're back here with another 10NL hand history review. So specifically, I played a session here 2 nights ago. It was 375 hands, winning about 95 big blinds, so decent results for a moderate sample size there. As you guys know, I like to flag hands for review as I play the session, so I can go back and do this kind of analysis. Only 6 hands from review for that session, so without further ado, let's get started and see what we got here. So Jacks in the small blind, love it. So a very loose player here opens from low jack. Comes it down to a small raise from cutoff. So when I see that there, it's a regular raise would be about 40 cents. So you don't know this player type. You only have 31 hands on him. Certainly raising a fair amount, but that doesn't scream strength. And it comes around to me in the small blind. So with a very loose opening limp and a very loose raising range, so this is always be a spot I squeeze to. Normally I go 4x's raise about 120 and probably 130 for him to call along. I got 150, so it was a little bit bigger. I certainly could have miskeyed there. And also in these out of position hands against two opponents, though, you don't mind raising a little bit bigger just to try to get some kind of fold equity. So if I had gone to something like 90 cents there, these guys are going to call every single time. So if you raise a little bit bigger than the quote-unquote standard, it often helps you get a little bit more fold equity, which in these stakes is quite important. All right, so I get called by the big blind, not a great start. I get called by the cutoff. So despite the fact, though, that we raised a little bit bigger than we probably even intended to, we did get the 2 callers out of positions with jacks, which is not ideal. All right, so this is not the greatest board for jacks. A lot of people are going to play some of these big cards. A lot of people might flat with something like an ace-king, a king-queen. It's hard to have king-jack. At least there's only one suited combo. This is a spot I recall this from the other night, and I'll get you guys to leave me feedback here. Is should this be a good c-bet spot or not? So think about your range 3-betting and 3-betting big is you have aces, you have kings, you have ace-king. These guys probably have less combos of those. You probably have to assume they would 4-bet aces and kings. They could cold call with ace-king some of the time. Also, remember, at this level, these guys aren't necessarily playing proper ranges. Meaning they could have something like a king-10, a king-jack offsuit. So there are some kings you have there. If I recall correctly, I went ahead and I c-bet this. A third pot, which, the sizing and stuff is correct, but maybe not just against these two players. I get called. I get called again. So at this point, I am done with my jacks. If we improve to a queen, I have an open-ended straight draw, and that's great. If we improve to a jack, I'll continue. But there's a flush draw out there, even though you block some of it, though, is not a great place for a pair of jacks here. All right. So king, queen, jack 10. So now you have the open-ender. My feedback before I see what I do is this is probably a pretty good place just to check and hope you get there. Now that there's 2 overcards to your jacks, it's unlikely you have top pair. Certainly there is ace-jack could have floated flop. Again, there's only so many suited combos of that. 2 suited combos of that people should have called with pre-flop, but again, not everybody plays proper ranges. So I check with 2 overcards. You open in a straight draw. Your hand is now turns like a marginal value hand, and we just like to check those. So check. Bet is 615. Fold, and I don't have a choice here but to fold. So you need 28% equity to continue. I'm assuming the player that shoves has at least a king. So figure you have 8 outs to improve to an open-ended straight draw, giving you approximately 16% equity. You need 28% equity to call. There are 2 additional jacks that would give you a set that we can assume would be best. So that gives you 10 outs, but it's still only about 20% equity. Yeah, so unfortunately we have to fold. It's hard to narrow down these guys' ranges when they kind of cold call a 3-bet. I don't have any notes here within 76 hands that give me anything good, except that he's clearly calling too wide. Like jack 7 off is pretty wide. It's not terrible from the big blind, depending on the price you get. But yeah, we have to lay down there. So my point is I want to hear from you guys is, was this a good c-bet spot on that flop or no? All right, next hand we have a king-9 suited. Certainly a strong enough hand I like to play from the cutoff. A fold, a limp. This is a weird player type where he's a 34-1, so he's limping almost everything. So his range could include, you know, at least queens, jacks, tens. It looks like he raises probably maybe just aces or aces and kings. He's only folding, when he limp folds, he's only folding a third of the time. Still, though, I want that little bit of fold equity. And when you raise, I never limp this. I always raise to 40 because I also think that discourages some of these guys behind me from calling. Gives them a little worse price to call, especially on the button. So raise to 40, good. All right, so we raise to 40. We get a call from hijack here that had limped. Remember, unfortunately, his limping range contains a lot of premium hands, a lot of decent aces. So we got to be kind of cautious here. So we made second pair. Backdoor flush draw. He checks as he should. I think his range has a lot of aces in here. I'm happy with second pair in a decent sized pot to try to check it down and kind of get closer to showdown. We have a backdoor flush draw, which is good, and I think it's a pretty nice check spot, which I do. Great. So now that's interesting. So now we have still second pair. Now the backdoor flush draw has improved. I mean, you still need one more card, but at least you have that draw now. If he bets, it's again easy enough to put him on likely an ace. But with the backdoor equity from that flush draw, you have to call. So what happens here? He bets 40, you know, 43% of pot or something. We need 23% equity to continue. There's a possibility he hit a queen and we are still best. If you're not, you do have 9 outs to the nut flush draw, which would be nice. So I think that's a pretty easy flat call here, which I do. Great. Now you have a 9. So you still have 2 pair. Pair of aces, pair of kings with the queen kicker. Let's see what he does. 2/10, so he's over betting the pot. So does a player like this ever overbet the pot on the river with something other than an ace? So if he has a king, you're chopping. If he has a queen, you win, but I don't see him probably overbetting a queen. I think this guy has a lot of aces in his range. This is probably just a fold. If I recall correctly, I call here, but I don't think I like this spot. You don't see guys bluff enough on the river in these stakes. When he does this, especially for like a 1.3x pot, whatever it is, bet, it's very hard to give him anything other than a value hand. This is probably just a fold. If I flagged it, though, I'm assuming I call. And he comes up with the ace queen for the full house. He's even stronger than we thought. Interesting hand, and it's certainly worth noting a player like that. As we expected, with the 34-1, he has a lot of strong hands in his pre-flop range, including a lot of decent aces. I agree with every play until the river, but that was a poor river call, and that's why you do this analysis. We look through these hands, we learn from our own play. This is the best tool I found to learn. All right, next hand. Queeners. All right. A limp from probably, no, not that same player, different player, 35-1, same player type. Again, with the queens, you're raising that up every time, 40 cents. Love it. Get a cold call on the button, which is fine. You get a 3-bet in the big blind. So only 34 hands on the player. He's yet to 3-bet in 12 opportunities. The min 3-bet's not real scary to me. I mean, it's a decent squeeze spot for a good player. If you went to like $2 or something, though, I think that would be a pretty good squeeze against my raise and this call. I expect this player here on the button to be relatively weak, especially within only, again, it's 8 hands. Very wide calling ranges. So at the very least, I would want to 4-bet here to squeeze him out. If this guy really has aces or kings, he probably can't forego 5-betting it. So it's hard to not call down with queens. But it's not a hand you want 3 ways. let's see if we can. So my opinion here, before I see what I do, is I would 3-bet here. I'd probably make it somewhere around 250. You're in position against that player, so you get 3 times his bet plus that, so around 250. I go 250, great. A fold, and that's why you do that, because you fold out that player that's calling too wide, and the initial 3-better calls your 4-bet. All right. So he could have aces and kings in slow play. I know I would call probably in those situations because people can overvalue other pairs. So let's see what we have here. 5-6-4 is not a particularly scary flop. I don't think the range he's 3-betting and then cold calling a 4-bet is going to have a lot of 7-8 in it. It shouldn't have 3-4. Some of these guys get sticky with these pocket pairs, but if you look at his price to set mine, like back here on the he had to put in what is $1.80 to the pot, so you want to get at least like 10x. So you want to have like $18 behind to get that, and he doesn't. So you're probably not set mining with these small pairs at that point. Again, you don't know all these player strategies though, so he checks. I'm going to assume he has a lot of big cards here, maybe some smaller pocket pairs, jacks, 10s, 9s, that would call something like this. So I'm going to see bet here. Probably I'm going to size up a little bit because I think those pairs will call. Maybe $2, even like $2.25. I go $2. All right. And he jams. All right. I remember this. This was a fun spot. So let's go over here to PokerCruncher real quick. I'm going to kind of work backwards. I'm going to deal to flop. I'm going to put in 5-6-4. Suits don't really matter. So just say there's 3 different ones. My hand here is queen, queen, right suits. Yep. Let's give him a range. So let's assume that he'll cold call a 4-bet with aces and kings to trap. I will give him 9s up. Ace king. I'll give him ace queen suited. That might be it. That might be a cold call of a 4-bet range, or what it should be. I mean, it's only 4.5% of hands. I don't think he ever calls with like a 7-8. I don't think he's going to call with 5-6-4s. At least he shouldn't. I'll give him 8s just to expand the range a little bit, because 4.5 at these stakes seem to be a little light. He's folded to the 1-4 bet he's faced so far, so that's not saying much. I'm going to go with that range as the assumption. I'm going to assume on this board, I have... It's fun to take a guess here and try to see what you have. I'm going to guess I have 68% equity. Let's go with that. Might be... No, well, all he has is aces and kings that beat us. Queen is chop. So, I mean, you can kind of size it up this way. You use 12 combos you lose to. 1 you chop with. That's almost irrelevant. 24... 36, 42 combos that you don't. So, yeah, it's about 4-to-1. So, I'm going to say I have 80% equity, 82%. All right, 77, mathematically not bad. I just don't think this is a position that you can fold in. I mean, you need to be right 28% of the time. You need 28% equity to continue. Actually, if you look at the pot, we'll use round numbers here. It's 555 plus 2 is 750. He's shoving 981, so you got to call 6 behind. So you need probably about a third. We can do the math in calculator, but you're going to call off. You're going to need about 33% equity to call. You have, according to our calculation, 77%. So I think it's an easy call. And this will also be a good exercise. Did we range his 4-bet call correctly? Is he part of this range here, which would be heavily pocket pair oriented, or did he stray off what we think he should do? So I do call. I think it's a pretty easy call. So unless he had pocket, if he had aces and kings, we're in trouble. If he had pocket 9s by hat and chance, we're in trouble. Other than that, we are in good shape. He shows up with 10. So it's not a great play on his part to check raise all in. My 4-bet range is going to have all the best over pairs. It might be just aces, kings, queens, ace, king, and some bluffs. I mean, with the way he played it, maybe I do a range. I raise a little wider than that. So let's also do a 3-bot, 3, min, 3-bet, 10-10, out of position, called, 4-bet, check raised, all in on low card flop. So taking these notes is important, just to have an idea of how these guys play in the future. So if you see a similar spot in there, you just know this guy's capable of doing it with a small overpair. It's not necessarily something that he's only going to have the nuts to do. Fun hand there. We got the range on him correct, which was awesome. I think I remember this one as well. So ace-queen folds around to the small blind. Small blind stealing 22%. He's a 48-15 player otherwise. He raises to 30. If he's only doing that with 22% of hands, I mean, look at a 22% range here. You're still something roughly like that. You know, your ace-queen suited is still going to have 65% equity, we'll say. All right, 61% equity, close enough. So you're in position. You can flat call this. You can also just raise and try to take it down pre-flop. He's folding to 3-bets 58% of the time. You can click in here further and just see pre-flop. Whoop. Pre-flop from small blind. Calling a 3-bet. He's only calling a 3-bet from the small blind 23% of the time. Let's give a raise and call. Fold a 3-bet after raising 50% of the time for the small blind. So not a lot of history there, but I probably 3-bet this. I probably actually make it a little bigger than 3x, so something just like $1, just so a little extra fold equity, because I'm quite happy to take it down here pre-flop. All right, I flat call, and I don't think that's terrible. That keeps his range that you're dominating quite wide. If you get an ace-high flop, you are probably good, so that's awesome. Then this is a situation where it's a board you don't love. It's a middle card board. If you happen to have 8-9, you know, he just flopped a straight. All you kind of have here is high card value. You have a gut shot to a king. You have a backdoor flush draw to hearts. So you do have some equity on this board. Let's pop this in. So board is 10-7 jack. 10. I think it's 7. Jack's a club. Jack's a spade. I'm guessing here, you know, he's the pocket pairs and stuff that are ahead. He has some 10s and he has some jacks within that range, so he could have hit some pairs. He's going to miss that board still most of the time with some ace highs. I'm guessing that drops us to about a 50-50 in equity, though. Oh, wow. So, all right. So that's why you do these exercises. So he is quite far ahead at this point in time. Interesting, because again, he has all these pocket pairs. I mean, he's only has a high card 40% of the time. 54% he has a pair, and these guys aren't going to fold pairs if you raise them. If we play it out to the river, that increases our equity closer to 50-50. So that's interesting. So on the flop, we only have about 33% equity. If you play it out to all 5 cards, you're about 50-50. Why is that? Because if you hit this board, you have 2 overcards. A king makes you the nuts. 2 hearts makes you the nuts. All right, interesting. So what does he do here? Third pot bet, easy call behind. All right. So 8 doesn't improve us. It takes away the possibility of the backdoor flush and puts backdoor diamonds out there. A 9 just got there and a 1-card straight. So despite the fact he's betting you only need 20% equity to continue, I mean, let's put an 8 of diamonds in here and see where our equity goes. He's not going to continue with this same range, firing, flop, and turn. Let's assume he does, because I don't think it's going to greatly... It's not going to help us taking these hands out. So the only thing he's not going to bet are things like pocket 4s, and I don't even know if he folds something like that. So that drops our equity way down to 31%. Again, you're kind of hoping if he has a single pair hand, you're hoping to hit an ace, a queen, or a king. So if he's a single pair hand that does not contain a 9, you have 3 queens, 3 aces, and 4 kings. You have 10 outs. That gives you 20% equity. It's putting it here at 31%. So this is, again, continuing that he's saying he's continuing with some ace-5s and stuff that you dominate. And that's not realistic. So you probably have more something along the lines of 20% equity. So it's real close on a call. Being in position, I don't mind it. We can also say if the ace of diamonds, king of diamonds, or queen of diamonds comes, well, it's unlikely he hits a backdoor flush. That's certainly not helping. We do call behind there. That's okay. He fires again, and you've completely bricked everything on a board that is going to. It favors his range. I mean, you saw his range hits this board quite a bit, and if you call, your ace high is unlikely to win. If you raise, is he going to fold anything? He probably doesn't fold a decent pair. He doesn't fold the 10 jack. He doesn't fold jack 8, 10 8, any of those two pair combos that might be in his range. Well, we didn't put him in his pre-flop range here, so maybe I'm overestimating the number of two pair combos. But despite only needing 17% equity, this is probably just a fold. And I call and I don't love it. I'm expecting to see at least a jack, if not something with a 9. All right, a weird hand. Honestly, probably one that I wouldn't have expected. Queen 10 was in his pre-flop calling range, and come back to the flop. All right, let's make a note there. Raise, small blind, Queen 10 off, fire 3 small bets. With a second pair on straight board. So this guy tells you, at least in that scenario, or this hand tells you, at least in that scenario, that guy's betting pretty thinly from the small blinds in this scenario. He's got to assume from the big blind that I don't have much calling behind like that. And what I would probably do differently next time is just 3-bet this thing pre-flop. Again, he's going to, that's a hand he's got to fold out. So that was probably a mistake. And now that we see he's opening at least a little widely from the small blind, we see that again, that's something we can do. I think it's 2 more hands. Pocket 8s, limp. I'm going to raise that up. You want to raise that again to create some fold equity to give these guys a worse price behind. Yeah, and if you do hit a set or whatever your hand may be, you want to increase the size of the pot to get paid off the maximum. So get a call here from a 56-0 player in the big blind. So 27 hands, but he's calling real super wide. This guy's only his 5th hand with you, so you got no range on that guy. It's the first hand that you've seen. All right, 5-5-3. Interesting. All right, a check, a check. You are likely good here. I mean, players will call with the ace-5. That's about the only 5 these guys are going to have. I mean, he might have some suited like 7-5, 6-5, stuff like that. There's still not even a lot of combos of those. This guy here, again, 5 hands in, first one playing. It's hard to put him on a 5. You definitely want to see bet here. It's not a board you're too scared of, so about third pot, 45 cents or so is fine. Yep. Fold there. I remember this one. So we get min check raised. So what hand would min check raise you here? Would it ace-5, for example, min check raise you? Well, he might for balance. Let me rephrase. Would he check raise you? So he might for balance purposes. In this scenario, if you're gonna fire some bluffs, you need to actually have some value hands. So what are the value hands here? Pocket 3s or anything with a 5. I don't think an ace-3 does this. Obviously ace-5 and some of the 6-5 combos and stuff that would do this for value. The bluffs you would balance this with are something like a 6-4, which he may or may not have, a 4-2, and that's the problem, is those are kind of the natural bluffs. So he's going to be weighted towards value here. I remember this one comes out, so I'm trying to not be biased and trying to say what he should do. But theoretically, you would want to do this with your best made hands, being anything with a 5 or pocket 3s probably, as well as some draws, being 6-4, 4-2, and that's about it. Particularly with those, you want to have suited with a backdoor draw, backdoor flush draw, that is. He's giving you such a good price, though, you kind of have to continue. You see up top here, you only need 15% equity to continue. I have trouble believing in any of these scenarios you don't have that. So I believe I do call. All right. So the 2 comes. So now here's the challenge is one of the exact hands that he should raise as a bluff here would be 6-4. Should he happen to have that, that just came in. If he had something like a 4-2, well, he couldn't have 4-2 of spades, so that can't happen. So what does he do? So he bets a 3rd pot again. So when you see his flop bet was 90 cents, now his turn bet here is $1. When you start seeing stuff like that, though, it's either one or two possibilities. He really is a monster and he's trying to rip us in. Only real monster he has here is pocket 3s for a full house. If he had 6-4, I mean, so be it. If he had a 5, I don't think a 5 bets that way on this type of board where there could be a straight. He may not realize I don't have a lot of straights. I don't have a lot of ace-4, 6-4, whatever in my range. I don't know that he knows that. So when you see a min check raise on the flop and a smallish bet on the turn, that is almost always kind of marginal value. So it leads me to believe he doesn't have a 5, pocket 3s, or a straight. I should call here. I do. Great. And a 9. So is there any, before we see what happens, is there any hand with a 9 that he would have floated? Would he have limped and called a pre-flop raise with 9-5? Probably not. 9-3, even less likely so. He could have pocket 9s. I mean, some of these guys will float some of the overpairs in this kind of regard. I can't see that 9 helping him. It doesn't bring any. It doesn't complete any draws. You're blocking 9-8. Just if he happens to float something like that, he shouldn't, but you never know. So what does he do? So this is the old same bet thing. So if you look, like he raised the flop to 90 cents. He bet the turn for $1. He bet the river for $1. When you see these same size bets, that's almost always a marginal value hand that these guys are trying to get to a cheap showdown with. How does pocket 8s do against a marginal value hand? Well, pretty well. You don't want to raise here because I think then you only get called by stuff that you lose to. You might only get called by a 5 or pocket 3s or some type of straight. With these small bets, just calling down with your marginal made hand is great. So we do call pocket 7. So that certainly fits into the marginal made hand category. And the one thing from the opponent's shoes, this is a particularly poor play with pocket 7s. He's not blocking any draw except 7-6. I have all the overpairs in my range. When I raise pre-flop, I have aces, kings, queens, jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, probably down to 6s or something. Yeah, it is a whole lot of overpairs alone that he loses to. If he's trying to say that, if he's trying to fake it and say that he has a 5 or something, that bet size just isn't enough to scare me. So probably a poor play by him, and we call down nicely. Final hand here, pocket 5s. A little loose of an open here from low jack. If we look at our charts here, low jack has you opening 6s and above, so a little loose of an open, so hopefully that doesn't punish us. I like the pocket pairs. He's even out of position. These guys are real likely to pay you if you hit a set. So, all right, so it's not the worst flop here for pocket 5s. There's 2 overcards. The guy's playing at 63, so he's playing at a super high range. I mean, he's missed this board so much of the time. The concern here is he the type of guy that's going to float 2 overs. If you bet here, is he going to float an ace-jack, maybe? With a backdoor draw, perhaps he should. Backdoor flush draw, that is. You have a gut shot to a 6. Your hand is fairly marginal made at this point. He is on a shorter stack, so if you're going to hit your straight and hope to get paid, you're not getting a ton of money from him. I think this is a c-bet spot just because he's missed the flop so much of the time. Let's see what we do. 3rd pot, great. So almost like the last hand, he min raises your 3rd pot c-bet. All right. So one thing you can do is here is you can click in, you get a flop, raise c-bet. So within 8 opportunities, at least so far, he has yet to raise a player c-bet. what hands would he raise the c-bet with? So could he have some 5-6? Yeah, calling that wide he could, but you're blocking that pretty hard. You have to assume he's only calling the 2 suited combos. He could have all the pocket pairs. He could have 8-7-4s. He could have 2 overcards he's trying to bluff you with. But again, you always look up here. You need 15% equity to continue. You know, on your next street, there are 4 6s that give you the nuts. That gives you 10% equity right there. 2 5s, that gets you up to, what is that, 6 times 2? That's 12% equity right there. It's also a chance he's just floating random overcards and you're good right now. So I think even out of position is a call. All right. So now that gives you... So the challenge here is now that it's 7, 8, 9, you still need a 6 for a gut shot. So the problem is the board is 6, 7, 8, 9. Anything he has with a 10 is going to out straight you. What 10s does he have? Well, he probably calls a 10-8 pre-flop. He probably calls a 10-7 pre-flop. He can still have 7-8 and be ahead. He could have pocket 7s or pocket 8s. There's still a number of hands here that you lose to. So let's see what he does. He's a relatively passive player. I mean, 35 hands, that's just the feel you get of it. So you check and he bets half pot. So you need 24% equity to continue. I think at this point this is probably just a fold. He's shown strength that you're not consistent from seeing from him. There's another overcard out here. You're really drawing to 4 6s that may not give you the best hand, 2 5s that probably give you the best hand. But if we also give the theory that he's raising sets, the 7s and the 8s here, your pocket 5s might lose your stack, and in that case, a reverse implied odds. So this is probably a fold. All right, I do fold. So I think that's smart. So guys, it's only 6 hands. Took 20-something minutes to get through, but this is the kind of analysis I like to do, and this makes me better. It allows me to make opponent notes. It allows me to talk through it, really see what's going on with these different hands, and this is how I learn. So these exercises are great for me, and hopefully I'm sharing some information I learned from some of you as well. If you made it this far, please leave comments or hit the subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Also, shoot me hands that you want to review of similar stakes or similar ideas that I don't mind taking a look at them with you and seeing what's going on. So, all right, guys, good luck out there.